Good morning, friends. It's another edition of the Daily Devo with Bob Branch. Want to welcome you this morning and just delighted that you tuned in. I want to take some themes or a theme that we talked about on Sunday, and I want to tease this out a little bit with you over these next couple of posts. The theme is the Apostle Paul in 2 Corinthians 5 and 6 has talked about this idea of being ambassadors. And then he concludes that little section in chapter 6 by saying we are God's co-workers, or another translation would put it, working together with God or working together with him. Now, this is a whole revolutionary way of seeing life. It's not just something that Paul did back then and there. It's not something that was unique to him. It's something that's unique to every single Christian who's a part of God's family. This is not something that's for the elite or for the trained or for the seminarians or anything of that sort. This is the inheritance of the saints, that you are now God's co-workers. And you are God's co-worker in the sphere that God has placed you in your world right now, in your neighborhood, in your workplace, in your school, in your family, in your extended family, in your church. You're God's co-workers. You are God's co-worker. That is, you are working together with the master of the universe. I love the way that David Cho, the pastor, at least that I know of, for the largest church in the world in Korea, used to say it this way. He said, the Holy Spirit is my senior partner. He saw himself as the junior partner in this co-op, this co-working kind of initiative. And Jesus actually talks about this is how he worked. And if we're going to have any chance at fulfilling the John 14:12 promise of the greater works you'll do because I'm going to the Father, greater works than I did, then we're going to have to do it the way that Jesus did it. Now, how did Jesus do it? He did it in cooperation with his Father. And here's how the story goes. In John chapter 5, Jesus goes into a functional hospital. It's the Pool of Bethesda. It's a place where there are crippled people everywhere. He goes into that hospital functionally, and he heals one person. Now, and if you're anything like me, maybe you ask the question, well, Lord, why'd you go in there? I mean, it would have been a huge PR move that if you actually went in there, just emptied the hospital. And I've heard people say things like this over the years. If Jesus wouldn't just empty the hospital, then it would have been a great PR move. But the problem is that Jesus isn't interested in a PR move. He's interested in cooperating with the work already in progress, the work that his Father's doing. So after he heals this one guy, not everybody, but just one guy in at the Pool of Bethesda, he says it this way. He says when he's questioned about it, and he did it on the Sabbath, obviously that's offensive to the Jewish authorities because they're looking for an excuse to persecute Jesus. Jesus says this. He says, my Father is always working to this very day, and I too am working. That's John 5:17. Jesus says, my Father is always working. He's always working. And part of the thing that Jesus is saying in this is, my Father's even working on the Sabbath. All right, so with all of your laws and all your limitations and all of your ways of keeping things curtailed and quarantined on the Sabbath, Jesus says, my Father's still working. It's the Sabbath and my Father's working and I'm working as well. I never stop working. Then he pulls the veil back in terms of how everything he does works. And I think that we miss this pretty easily, but this is profound stuff. Jesus says, here's how I work every day. Everything that I do, every miracle, everything I say, everything, it works like this. He says, I tell you the truth. The Son, me, Jesus saying, can do nothing by himself or of his own initiative. He can only do, he can only do what he sees his Father doing. For the Son does whatever the Father, whatever the Father does, the Son does also. For the Father loves the Son and shows him all he does. Shows him what he does. So right there, you have a window into everything that Jesus did, and you have a window in the revolutionary kingdom life. looking for what the Father's doing, joining him in work already in progress. Henry Blackaby wrote so profoundly in this in his course called Experiencing God. I would recommend it for any of you to pick up a copy of Experiencing God, the workbook, and go through the workbook or go through it with a group, Experiencing God. Why? What's going on here? Well, for one, in your life, every single day, every single place where you go, every single engagement that you have with people, with anywhere you go to the supermarket, you go anywhere, God is still working. God is working at the supermarket. God is working at Starbucks. God is working at all of these different places. God is working during the COVID thing. God is working. He's working everywhere all the time. He is working, and he's working all around you. The problem, I think, for us is that we think God is only doing religious stuff, and God is doing all kinds of things that are not religious. And God is at work. Maybe it's actually just, you see a senior citizen's having a hard time getting their groceries to their car. And the fact that you notice that is part of the way that God says, hey, I'm working here. Would you go do this for this senior citizen? I need you now. I'm calling you up. Come on. And you just go and you do it. And you think, well, that was really nothing all that spectacular, but you did something that the Father is doing. I think that the problem is for us is that we think that God is only working in the spectacular. But God, and I think that that's probably the enemy of all of the regular ways that God is working in our lives all the time. And so with that in mind, it's important to tune our minds to the idea, to the fact that God is always at work. He's always working, always working. Don't forget that. Drill it into your mind. Say it out loud to the Lord. Pray it every day. God, I know you're always working. The second thing is he's invited you and I, just like Jesus, to join him in work already in progress. To join him in work already in progress. You're not the one who's making up the work. You're not the one who's the primary mover. You're not the one who is initiating everything. God is doing this initiating. He's weaving things here and there. He's doing all of these beautiful things all around you, all the time, inside of you as well. And he's working, and it's already in progress. And so your job is not to create the work of God, but to join the work of God. That God is working, as we said, and your invitation is to join him. And so as God's co-workers, as people working with him, 2 Corinthians 6:1, that you and I, we move with God in these things. And as we do, we don't get confused in terms of who the primary strength is or who the one that's really working is. We can just be servants. We can jump in. And so, and the third thing here that I want to emphasize this morning, we'll tease this out a little bit in the next couple of posts, but is that he will show you what he's doing if you're looking. He will show you what he's doing if you're looking. Now, it's almost like a good rap. He will show you what he's doing if you're looking. He will show you what he's doing if you're looking. He will show you what he's doing if you're looking. And so the call to action today is to pray and ask God to show you where he's working, and then to look for it. That's all I'm asking you to do today, is to start there. He will show you what he's doing if you're looking. And with that today, let's end our post with that. Think about these things. Let these things sink into you. I want to tell you, this will revolutionize the way you do life with everyone, everywhere, all the time. It is the kingdom way of doing life. And I want to just encourage you in that today. God has called you. Yes, you might feel insignificant. You're not insignificant even in the least. You are significant because you are God's co-worker. Now let's join him in what he's doing today. I love you. Thanks so much for tuning in. God bless you. And until tomorrow, I'm praying for you, walking with you in this. God bless you.